Hi, and welcome to the Daily Vent, a medical mom podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Orchard, and today we are going to be talking about the NICU versus the PICU. We got to experience both sides of this. We spent 7 months in the NICU and then went across the street and spent 9 months in the PICU. Now, there are definitely pros and cons of each department, of each ICU. They are very different worlds. And I don't think anyone talks about that. And I think a lot of the times, many babies, if you have a medically complex child at birth and you have a NICU stay, many hospitals will allow your baby to stay in the NICU until they go home, depending on how long they're there. Not everybody has as long of a stay. We had like 500 something days. So not everybody has that long of a stay. But you usually will go home from the NICU and then you won't experience the PICU. Hopefully, you never have to experience the PICU, but you won't experience the PICU until you are readmitted and severely sick, or if you are a trach and vent child, you automatically stay in a PICU when you are readmitted to the hospital if you're on a ventilator. They tried to prepare us for the PICU when we were leaving the NICU. I think they did a fair job. A little history on our hospital. So this is just I'm going to explain how our hospital is set up. So the hospital where John was born was St. Joe's Women's, which has a level 4 NICU, which is the highest level you can get. We're very grateful that we lived about 45 minutes away from a hospital that had a level 4 NICU. And actually in Tampa, there's 3 different level 4 NICUs. I guess essentially not Tampa, but Johns Hopkins All Children is in St. Pete, and that has a level 4. Tampa General has a level 4 NICU, and St. Joe's is a level 4 NICU. So we're very grateful with a lot of amazing resources here in the Tampa Bay area. John was born at Women's Hospital, and he spent 7 months in the NICU. The NICU there is beautiful. It is newer. It has, I think, like 70 something rooms. It's 2 floors. The second floor is the more critical children. The third floor is the more like feeder growers. And we always hoped that one day we would get to that third floor. We never got there. That's okay. So we spent 7 months in the NICU. The NICU there has private rooms. I was expecting when I got rolled up there to just have a bunch of incubators next to each other in a big open space like you see on the movies or whatever. I don't even know where I've seen that before. But that's what I expected. That was not what it was. It was private rooms with private bathrooms, private showers, a couch. Not the comfiest couch, but it was a couch and it worked. And when you're that tired, you sleep on it. And they were very private. You would see things around you, but not too much. The rooms had like glass windows and glass doors, so you could see in, but they weren't directly like across from you. They were across, but on the other side. So they were very private. Then you go to the PICU. And this is how I explained it. Whenever I would make friends with people in the NICU who were then going to be transferred over to the PICU after us, when you leave the NICU at St. Joe's to go to the PICU across the street at St. Joe's Children, you are basically going from a Ritz-Carlton or Four Seasons to a Motel 8. Motel 8 might be a little harsh, okay? Maybe not a Motel 8, maybe like a Holiday Inn Express. But you are still getting the Ritz-Carlton Four Seasons service. Maybe even better. I don't think there's anything better than that, but that's what you're getting. So the facility is old. They are going to be building a new hospital over the next couple years. Who knows when that'll happen? It's supposed to be beautiful. But in the meantime, the facility is not the nicest. And the PICU is very small. So you go from, 70 something rooms to 16 rooms. The rooms are not private. They don't have their own bathroom. They don't have a couch. The TV is about the size of a computer screen. It's not the nicest, but the people there are amazing. You also see a lot of very traumatic stuff. So in the NICU, we would see things. We would see codes and stuff like that, but they were a lot quieter. You knew things were going on, but you didn't really see the parent. You didn't see stuff. You kind of hear it, but they would cover up the rooms or it would just kind of happen really fast. Or in my mind, in the NICU, majority of the people who are there know that they're going to have a NICU stay. So they either having a baby way preterm, the baby has some condition that they knew about at birth or before birth. So you kind of know to expect sadness. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody, but it was kind of just like scheduled sadness. It was different. So, like, I didn't expect to have a 23 weeker, but I knew, the day prior that I knew, that the NICU stay was coming and it was sad and stuff, but it's just a little bit different. You also don't have the bond with the kid. That sounds bad, but you don't have as huge of a bond with these newborn tiny babies than when you bring in a 5-year-old to the PICU and they're on life support who's had a whole life. It's just so different. So the NICU is just so much different than when you go to the PICU. We we got transferred there in November of last year. So John's coming up on his 1 year of his trach, which is wild. It was just kind of crazy because you would see a lot of awful things. And it's not a HIPAA violation because like they round out there. It's a small space. The rooms are on top of each other. They leave all the doors open because almost all the kids are on life support or ventilators or something where they have to have the doors open. They have to be monitored 24/7. Many of the kids are 1-to-1. Like that's just the space. And so we've seen a lot of things. We have seen kids who were perfectly healthy the day before and all of a sudden are brain dead. Um, and we have heard cries from parents that I never want to hear again, but I will never forget those cries. And that really only means one thing next to you. And then you see, a bed get rolled out with a sheet over it, so there's just a lot more that you see in the PICU. And as a mom who has had her kid be so critical and code many times, you just know how close you've been to that. And it hits really hard. We had 1 week over the summer where John was like the only patient for a couple days on and off. Like they had some kids come in, but John was like the only one because summer is slow. And then all of a sudden we had 2 kids that came in that were so sick. And they both passed away. One of them passed away within like 12 or 24 hours of coming in. And the other one was like a 17-year-old. And he ended up donating his organs. And that was the first honor walk I'd ever been a part of. That was really hard. And that was all within like a couple of days of each other. They used to call John like the PICU therapy baby, like a therapy dog, but he was like the therapy baby. So, uh, you know, honestly, I feel like God had him there for a reason sometimes. I mean, for many reasons, but he was such a good support system for a lot of the nurses on hard days. Because all you had to do was walk in there and that little boy gives you a smile and a little cuddle and everything's right in the world again. It was definitely a really hard place. The nurses are very different as well. The nurses in the NICU are, what's the word? Not micromanaging. It's just a different world where I don't know what the word to use is. It's not a bad word. I just don't know what the word is. So in the NICU, you have no autonomy. So for 7 months, we had no autonomy. We had a couple nurses. We had like our primary nurse was amazing. Our night primary was amazing. And then we had a couple other nurses that were just incredible that we met there as well. Who were really comfortable with us and they were really, really good nurses. And so they allowed us to have more autonomy. But I would say 90% of the nurses didn't let us have any autonomy there, which is really hard because I understand it at first when you have a new baby coming in. They have to be the ones in charge of everything and do everything. And you really should be careful and not touch them and blah, 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 whatever. Because there are some stupid parents that, like one time, I think there was a mom that was trying to give her like premature baby Mountain Dew because she wanted her to know what it tasted like. Like, what the hell? Like, so they do come across those things, right? And so they have to be careful and follow the rules, blah, 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 little robots. And that's fine. But it was really annoying when we had been there for 4 months and we opened the side door to touch our son. And in order to do that, you have to like move the little vent tube out of the way. And they would go tell on us. We got sent to the principal's office all the time. That's what I called it, but it was the charge nurse, but she's the principal. And they would come in and talk to us, and they're just like more passive aggressive nurses, I guess. So they would just go tell on us instead of being like, hey, like, be careful or whatever. They would just tell on us. And I was so emotional. I would just cry every time and be like, this is fucking ridiculous. Like, I am his mom. I have been here 4 months. I can literally do what I want. Like, if you don't come in and silence the feeding pump and I have to silence it because you're in rounds, and I'm not going to go interrupt you when there's 30 people out in the hallway to be like, hey, can you come turn off this feeding pump, please? No, I'm going to silence it. But then you get yelled at for that. So it was really difficult in the NICU. But at the time, that was all we knew. So it wasn't that difficult. But now when I look back compared to the PICU, it was definitely a lot harder to be a parent and have autonomy. When it came time to go to the PICU, we were like, no, don't send us. We don't ever want to leave here. This is our family. We've been here 7 months. We love it. And then we got to the PICU and we're like, oh, thank God. We love this place. Like, we love the PICU. And over time, our love for the PICU just grew more and more and more and more. The people at the PICU are angels. Not the NICU team or not, but I think that we went through a whole different level of trauma in the PICU than we did the NICU because we were more bonded with our son by the time we got there. You also see a lot of things that the PICU nurses are also going through as well. And so you just kind of feel for them. And the PICU team is also like younger. Like, a lot of the nurses are, maybe not even younger isn't the word, but I've become really good friends with many of the PICU nurses. I could go on and on and on about how amazing the PICU staff is. Like, every single person there could go on and on. Every doctor, everybody, every nurse. I could go literally on. I could do a whole podcast where I just was like, so this person I love, like, I love them all. I won't go into that. But the reality of the PICU is it's a much harsher place, and not because of the people, but because of the things you see. There are a lot of child abuse, a lot of trauma, like car accidents, different things, a lot of drownings. I would say about once a week or so, we would see like CPS in the PICU. You'd see forensics and stuff a lot, different police stations. We saw stuff like that all the time. And no one ever broke any HIPAA, so I don't want anyone coming for the team. But when you live in the hospital and everyone has the doors open and they round right outside, you hear things. You see things. You walk past the room because, again, there was no bathrooms in the room. So every time I have to pee, and I pee all the freaking time because I have the bladder of a squirrel, I have to walk by every single room with all the doors open. And I'm nosy as fuck. So, of course, I'm going to look in the rooms. Like, my husband doesn't, because he doesn't care, because that's just him. He's a man. He doesn't fucking care. But I care. I'm so nosy. So I look in every single room, and you'd be like walking past the room and be like, holy fuck. Like, there's this one girl this one time that, oh my God, she got in a car accident and she looked awful. It was bad. And I told my mother-in-law, like, don't look in that room. Whatever you do, like, when you leave, just don't look. You won't be able to handle it. And she walks out to go to the bathroom, and then she quickly comes back and goes, I looked. Why did I look? It was so bad. And like, she didn't even go to the bathroom because she was just so traumatized by it. So yeah, my recommendation would be, if you're in the PICU and the rooms are open, just don't look in the rooms. It's a lot. It is definitely a lot. But it's also where you see a lot of miracles. You know, that girl ended up being fine, going to the floor a couple days later. So you do see a lot of miracles. You do see a lot of really sad things as well. Because a lot of the times the kids that are there are on their last chance because they're so sick. It's just a really harsh place. It's a really dark place. But the people there bring so much light. And that's what makes a difference. And that's why we are so blessed that we were at such an amazing facility, because I have met other people who are not as happy with their ICU. We did transfer to Johns Hopkins PICU for John's tracheoplexy surgery. I really don't have anything bad to say about that ICU there. It was just different. It's a much larger. I think it had 27 beds. Rooms were way more private. The rooms were like the Ritz fucking Carlton. They were beautiful. I mean, they had a mini fridge in them, a safe, 2 TVs, a couch, a bathroom, not a shower, which, but they had a bathroom, and they were really nice. The cafeteria there was like bomb. Johns Hopkins, great cafeteria. Prices great, food great, much better than St. Joe's cafeteria. That's like the one thing St. Joe's does not have going for them is their cafeteria is a fucking joke. Anyway, you guys don't care about fucking cafeteria. Sorry, just ranting. We enjoyed our stay there, but it's very different. There's not much autonomy at that hospital compared to St. Joe's. And you could tell, like, you would ask a nurse something, and every time they had to go ask this person and this person, like when John needed pain meds. It wasn't just like, let me go to the ICU doc. It was like, let me go to the pain med team who will help me. Like, it was just so weird. Like, there was so many rules and regulations. Like, you couldn't mix his formula in the room. We had 1 can left of Kendamil because whatever you do, Kendamil's the best, but there's always a shortage. So if you see that shit, stock up. But we were out. We had 1 can left. The other stuff was being shipped to my house like in 2 days. They would not let us make bottles for him with it because it had already been opened, and I had to go to a formula room, and the formula room wouldn't take unopened stuff. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? I have half of a can that will last us another day and a half of perfectly good formula. I can mix it myself right here. And they're like, but that would be messy. That was their response. It would get messy. It would be messy. Oh my God. Well, that's what fucking purple wipes are for, and paper towels. We can just clean it, right? Yeah, it was definitely a different place. But they were very nice. They were very kind. And we did enjoy it there. So I don't really have anything bad to say about it. But I'm always just going to be repping St. Joe's Children's. Like, I'll be their biggest brand ambassador, even though, like, there's no such thing and there's no money in that. But, like, I will rep them till the day I die. I love St. Joe's Children's. Thank you. This is so stupid. But anyway, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to prepare any parents here. I don't want you to ever be scared of the PICU. I just want you to be fair warned that it is a whole different world than the NICU. It's just different. If you are someone who is empathetic like me and you feel everything and you take on everything, give yourself some grace at the beginning of it because you will kind of feel a lot of stuff. Don't look in the rooms. Close your door if you're allowed to when they're rounding. Like, just don't listen to things, because being nosy sometimes is a good distraction for me, but sometimes it's just too much because I get too invested in the people around me. But it's also a blessing, though, because I have met a lot of parents in the PICU that we've been at. You know, community is everything. So when you're walking past a room and it's a parent that they've been there for a while, they're kind of like the long timers like you're like, hey, what's up? And then you guys talk, and then it's nice to have a friend there. You go get lunch together. Like, so there's good and bad things about it. But I'm a nosy person, and so that's what gets me in trouble in the PICU is I just want to know exactly what's going on in every room because I want to know what to pray for, and I want to know, I don't know. It's just hard. Living in an ICU with your kid is just hard in general. But the NICU is kind of more sunshine and rainbows than the PICU. That's my comparison of the two of them. I hope that no one has to go back and experience the PICU. I hope that it's more like an ER visit and then you go to the floor. For us, it's always an ICU PICU because of his ventilator. Whenever he gets off of the vent and he's just like the trach itself, I believe he can go to the floor, and I'll be sad when that happens because I want to just be in the PICU. But the PICU also has a lot of germs. That is where the RSV is. That is where the COVID is. That is where everything is. Whenever John's like starting to like show that he's getting sick at home or he sneezes, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to go back. Like, I just don't. Like, we had to go back for his GJ, and the whole time I'm like, don't look at him. Don't get him sick. Like, we made him be on no contact. So everyone had to wear like a mask and a gown in his room, even though he wasn't sick, because we were just psycho and didn't want him to get sick. That's my comparison of the two. This is a really short episode. I don't know how much more in depth to go. No shade to the NICU. We loved the NICU. We loved all of our nurses there. But I think we spent a little bit more time in the PICU, so we got to know them a little bit more. And the first couple months of the NICU, also, we were just like in a daze because our son was fucking like looked like a squirrel, and you just really don't give a fuck about becoming friends with anybody there. You just want your kid to survive. And then you go to the PICU, and these are people who are like helping raise your son and playing with them every day. And they have become our family. So like John has a few nurses that come and see him all the time outside of the hospital. Like I talk to the PICU people regularly. It's really weird to say that like I miss a hospital. I never thought I would say that I miss a hospital, but I do miss it there. I miss the people. That was my social life. So it's hard, but I still talk to them all the time. And having this community online is really helpful to have people to talk to as well, because it is really isolating and lonely at home when you go from having literal people in your child's room all the time and never being alone to just being you and your kid at home. It's a shock to the system. It is a huge shock, and it's something I've been struggling with a lot lately. I'm a very social person, but I'm also super antisocial. It's so hard to explain. Like, I love my alone time, but I do love being around people, not large groups of people, but I do love just having people around. And so it is difficult to just be home alone with my son on days like when I don't have nursing. It's definitely hard to just be alone, but it's also really sweet to just be with my son and just like do whatever the hell I want with him. That sounded really wrong, but you know what I mean. Like, just play with him and just talk to him. And my God, I play Celine Dion and I give him full concerts, and the boy just laughs the whole time at me. If I hit too high of a note, though, he will cry because it sounds so bad that it does scare him. So if anybody else has experienced the difference between the NICU and PICU, I would love to hear about it. Reach out to me. I think I'm going to try to get one of his past NICU nurses on here, and then a couple of his PICU nurses are wanting to come on. So that might be an interesting episode to put together the difference of the NICU and the PICU. So kind of a nursing perspective of what to expect and why things run the way they run at different ICUs. NICU versus PICU. I thought it was a really simple topic to talk about. Something that I'm really passionate about is explaining the differences to people. I don't know if I explained. So a NICU is a neonatal intensive care unit. A PICU is a pediatric ICU, so intensive care unit. Neonatal means that they were from birth, so they're a baby. And if you were to like go home, have a baby, go home, and then they need to be readmitted to an ICU, they're technically called dirty, even though they've been home, just for like an hour or two or a day. Your baby's technically dirty, so you go to the PICU. But if you go straight from inpatient, you go to the NICU. So that's kind of how that works. So the PICU will take any ages from newborn to 18. And then I think with like certain special needs kids, they might go over 18 depending on like age, or I forget what it is. But so the PICU will literally see any type of thing till 18, whereas the NICU, most of them go into like 1. Once you're 1, then you get transferred to the PICU. Some will take older. Ours was like 6 months. Once you hit 6 months, then you go to the PICU. And he went over to the PICU once he got his trach. And we're happy with that decision because they're a lot more familiar with trachs at our PICU than they are in the NICU. So yeah, that is the difference between a PICU and a NICU. In case you didn't know, like, what the differences or the terms are, because I guess it can be confusing if you don't have a medical child or are always in and out of the hospital or in the medical industry. Thank you for being here today at the Daily Vent, a Medical Mom podcast. I am so grateful that you stayed and listened to this episode. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it. Sometimes the topics we talk about are not sunshine and rainbows, but they are things that some people want to hear or need to hear. But I hope that you have a wonderful week. If you're listening to this at the beginning of the week, I hope you have a wonderful week, and thank you for being here.